Ashe and grand rising to you all, my very beautiful people, my highly enriched melanin people. Yes, you, the Earth's original and organic humans, aka my fellow Africans. It is I, the Mystic Philosopher. And yes, it is evident that I'm still here with you on this side of reality. And welcome back to the Mystic Peace, talking again on the 15 minutes with I, the Mystic Philosopher. And this is episode 30. Man. Now back to the topic of discussion, stress on the mind, or more correctly, the impact that this thing called stress has on the thing that we humans call the mind. Now, yes, I'm still talking about the word want and its relationship to the word stress, money, and unhappiness. And I am still emphasizing the want equation. I want that to stick. The want equation to stick and you to understand it. The want equation that I spoke to you all about earlier, and where I pointed out the fact that from my perspective, want is equal to money, which is equal to stress, which is also equal to unhappiness. Now, it was my intention, as promised in my last episode, episode 29, to be exact, that I would be answering and sharing my perspectives on some or possible all of the 8 questions that I asked, and questions that related to the word sheep in the last episode 29. And that I would continue talking about this disease called want, as I continue focusing on this quote focusing on the quote from the Adamic Race, History and Holy Book. And I quote again, just from memory, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And then use it as a reference just to prove my point, or my points, if you will. However, I will have to deviate a bit today and take time out and respond to a text message containing this question and comment that I have received from one of my very independent thinking and analytical listeners. She wrote, and I quote, "Mystic, I agree with you when you say that technically and biologically we are all animals, and that the only thing that truly distinguishes us humans within the animal hierarchy is our brain power, aka our intellect / our intelligence, and our ability to use it wisely and with integrity. I agree with the point that you made when you say that it is our faculty for thinking, reasoning, and understanding things objectively, especially as it pertains to things that are abstract, non-physical, or academic in nature. I also agree with you that it is our ability to memorize things, our language capability, and our ability to reason, plan, and to be strategic in our endeavors that truly separate us and set us apart from all the rest of animals. However, I am just here now seriously thinking about it, and my question to you, sir, is this. How would you describe a person, or what would you say about a person that has become old and is stricken with the disease called Alzheimer? And as a result of their condition, they have lost their senses, their intelligence, their ability to reason, and their memory. Would you now say that they have become lower than animals, especially those animals that can be seen exhibiting a high degree of intelligence, such as dogs, dolphins, etc.? that are trained to carry out certain difficult tasks. I anxiously await your response. Unquote. Now first, let me start by saying thanks very much, my sister, for listening to the Mystic Philosopher, or the Mystic P is talking again. And thanks for seriously thinking about what I am saying. And above all, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to write and text me such a clear, powerful, challenging, and detailed question and commentary, I might add. These are 3 of the 5 things that I ask of you all. Number 1, I ask that you listen. Number 2, that you think and think for yourself. Number 3, that you ask tough questions. Number 4, that you demand clear, honest, intelligent, and straightforward answers. And number 5, that if, when, or where, that you please be respectful. And number 6, that you share your own perspectives on these topics with I, the Mystic Philosopher. Now second, my response to this, my sister's question and commentary, I can almost assure you will have to be done in at least 2 parts. Because knowing how meticulous she is, and the level of thinking that I know went into this, her question and comments, there is no way that I could answer her in 15 minutes without having a dozen or more follow-up questions from her. And so I will begin part 1 of answering her question with answering her question and comments by asking and answering the question, what is Alzheimer? From my perspective, this thing called Alzheimer, or to take it a bit deeper, the phenomenon called Alzheimer is the observable consequences of a physical disorder, aka a physical disease, and not necessarily a mental disorder. And please underline or note carefully the word necessarily for possible future reference. And that is one reason why it is called Alzheimer's disease or disease. In fact, according to the National Institute of Aging, also known as the NIA website, Alzheimer is the name of the doctor that recorded his findings after noticing behavior of possible one of his patients who died of what he described as an unusual mental illness, aka an unusual mental disease. And I quote from the website, Alzheimer's disease is named after Dr. Alois Alzheimer. In 1906, Dr. Alzheimer noticed changes in the brain tissue of a woman who had died of an unusual mental illness, unquote. That is according to the NIA website. Now, where the doctor and I, or if not the doctor, where the National Institute of Aging website and I, the Mystic Philosopher, respectfully disagree, is where the website described the woman's death as one of an unusual mental disease or an unusual mental disorder. Those of you, my listeners, that have been listening and watching me since I started talking about this thing called stress on the mind, will remember, or you might remember hearing me telling you that whenever we use the word mental, and whenever we are talking about things that are mental, that we are actually talking about the thing that we humans called mind, aka we are talking about the mind. Thus, mental illness by logical deduction is mind illness. In other words, the mind is ill. The mind is sick. The mind is diseased. Or the mind is disordered. And that is the thing, and that the thing that we humans called mind is abstract. You must have heard me say that before if you listen to my other previous episodes, that it is spirit or spiritual, that it is metaphysics or metaphysical, meaning it is beyond the physical world, it is beyond the physical realm. And if that is correct, then we must also logically deduce that it cannot be literally seen or observed with any, or it cannot be observed with any of or all of our five senses. This thing called mind cannot be observed with any of or with all of our five senses. And only the impact of the mind or the impact of the spirit, the metaphysics, upon the physical can or may be observed in the physical and by the physical. From this we can and we must logically deduce and honestly conclude that if or when we observe the physical brain, we cannot honestly or authoritatively and authentically say that we have observed the mind. Just ask yourself and honestly answer yourself. And to your own self be true. Have any of you ever seen your mind? Have any of you ever seen a mind? Have any of you ever seen the thing that we humans called mind? Are there any instrument that is today known to man that can see this thing that we human called mind or the mind? For I, the Mystic Philosopher, the answer is no. But please inform me. From my perspective, this renowned Dr. Alzheimer, did not observe or notice changes in the woman's mind. By then, the mind or her mind had already left her brain. Or to be even more correct, by then her mind had already disconnected from her brain. In other words, if we throw an object into the air and watch it falls to the ground, we know through observation that it is the thing or the phenomenon that we call gravity that pulls it back to the ground. But we cannot say that we saw or that we observed gravity pulling it to the ground. In fact, if I may borrow another, what I consider to be a very scientific verse of scripture from the same Adamic race history and holy book known as the Holy Bible, that most of you, my listeners, might be that might be more familiar with or can relate to. And I quote, "The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it goes to. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit." John 3 verse 8, and I read from the New International Version, NIV. So one can say that the thing called mind is likened to the wind, or that it is spirit. But more on that at another time. I just borrowed that verse just to bring out a point. I'm not teaching or preaching here. And so the next logical question that I, the Mystic Philosopher, would ask is this: what then is Alzheimer's disease, aka Alzheimer's disorder? Well, according to the UK NHS website, Alzheimer's, and I quote, "Alzheimer's disease is thought to be caused by the abnormal build-up of proteins in and around brain cells, physically observable. One of the proteins involved is called amyloid, deposits of which form plaques around brain cells," unquote. Simply put, the mind is like the wind, and the human brain is like a physical instrument, aka a wind instrument. Example, a trumpet, a trombone, a clarinet, an organ, etc. If or when the instrument is well taken care of, well tuned, well played, and well maintained, then when the wind blows through it, it will produce a melodious sound or the melodious sound that it was made to do, or that it was designed to produce, or how it was designed to perform. On the contrary, it will perform poorly or not at all. However, over time, every instrument grows old, weak, and deteriorates, etc. And the same is true of our physical bodies, including all our physical organs, of which our physical brain is no exception. It age. They all age. We all age. It is also called entropy. As mentioned earlier, this response to this, my sister's question and commentary, will have to be in at least 2 parts. And in the interest of time, I will have to stop here for part 1. So please join me for the continuation of part 2, if or when next I am talking again, and possibly in episode 31. There and when I will be picking up from where I'm now leaving off, right here, answering my sister's question and commentary. And then to get back later, talking and focusing on stress on the mind, or more correctly, the impact that this thing called stress is having on this thing that we humans call mind, while still talking about the words want and sheep. In the meantime and between time, please let me remind you, remember my people, that yesterday is history. It too is dead and gone. No more to come back. Tomorrow is a mystery. It too may never come. But today is a gift, which is why we call it the present day. And I'm hereby imploring you, I hereby implore you to live for today. By live, I mean claim your natural birthright. And if you don't know what your natural birthright is, it is your joy. It is your happiness. Claim your happiness for tomorrow. And full joy today, for tomorrow may never come. Thanks again for listening. I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say. Over 15. I'm gone over. Way over.